Hey guys. So today I wanted to talk about a practice that you'll have to do when you're in a leadership slash management position and you're responsible for a group. And that's basically group maintenance, like making sure that your team is supported and is performing to the expectations that, has been set for them, and that they have the tools that they need to meet those expectations. Reason why I want to talk about this is, one, I think it's a really important topic that not a lot of people are trained on, because it also includes potential disciplinary or termination, actions if someone's not working out, and that's a very touchy subject, and most people want to avoid talking about it until it's too late. So I think it's good to get some knowledge and training about it before those situations pop up. And also, there was a coworker of mine who was having an issue with some of her team members and was potentially needing to go that disciplinary route. Reached out to me yesterday, and we talked about a couple different options of what she could do to get them on the same page. But just starting right off in it, if you're a leader, if you're a supervisor, if you're responsible for a team, it's a big part of your job is making sure that that team dynamic and that team culture that you've created and set in place is maintained. If you're not constantly checking in on it to make sure that everything is balanced and everything is good, it can go really south really quick. So an example, if you have a team of 10 people, everyone gets along great, they work just fine together, and then all of a sudden one day one of them starts gossiping or talking poorly about someone else behind their back. A, that person who was talking, and B, that person who was listening to the talking have now started on the downward spiral of creating bad culture, creating a non-safe environment, because then they might spread it to someone else, and all of a sudden 3 people now are like, okay, here are 2 people who, at least 2 other people who are talking about my coworkers behind my back. It doesn't matter behind their back. It doesn't matter if I agree with it or disagree with it. The fact is that it's now happening. And if it's happening with that person, how do I know that it's not happening, with one of the other people talking poorly about me behind my back? And really, after a couple days, that trust and that team culture can just all fall to shit. Which is why it's really, really important that you're checking in on it on a regular basis, as well as you have open rapport and good communication with your team members. That way, someone can let you know, like, hey, I heard this person was talking poorly about this one. Or ideally, your team members would get to the point to where they would feel comfortable addressing that issue as soon as it came up. So if someone tries to talk to me about, Stacy sucking, I can say, yeah, but our team culture is not to talk about other people behind their back, so I'm not really going to talk about Stacy. If you have an issue with Stacy, I think you should go address it with her, or you can bring it up to Josh, but I don't want to engage in this gossip because this is what it's starting to feel like. And really, if they get to the point where they can do that, that's fantastic. That's how you avoid gossip and issues like that. Oh, it's perfect. But there's actually a study that was done not too long ago. If you want to look it up, it was called the Bad Apple experiment or something like that. But essentially, a group of researchers were trying to see how the negative attitudes or performance of one person could affect the group, and how long it took them, or how long it took the group to experience those bad influences, which would harm their culture. So essentially, what they did is they gathered up a bunch of participants. They put them into groups, groups of 4 people, and then they had one confederate. A confederate is what you call a researcher who goes undercover and pretends to be a participant. So they had one researcher who was pretending to be a participant join that group. I think it was a group of 4 or 5. I can't remember the exact number, around there. But essentially, that researcher who's undercover, once the group starts working on their task, I think they were assigned you have to make a marketing ad for some type of product or whatever. But that undercover researcher would start engaging in behaviors of one of 3 different stereotypes. It was the slacker, who is someone who doesn't put in any effort, says that everything's boring, puts their head down their desk, doesn't really participate. the jerk who was just, really passive aggressive and snappy at everyone every single time that they said something. And then there was one more. I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. Either way, they were all three personality stereotypes that don't necessarily contribute to a group. And in each group, after only a couple minutes of experiencing that negative behavior, the other group members picked up on that, and that's how their culture developed. Like, okay, we have one person who's having a significant negative impact on the rest of us, so the rest of us are going to see that, identify that this is the culture, and then we'll take on those traits. So, for example, one of the groups, he was playing the slacker. The group was trying to do something, and he was just like, yeah, we did a good enough job. I don't really care about the rest of this. And then he put his head down on the desk. And then after 2 or 3 minutes, 3 other members of the group did that exact same behavior because they saw him displaying it first. And he did it with confidence. So they were like, okay, this person has the confidence. They're setting the tone for the group. The tone for the group is that this doesn't matter. So we're going to put our heads down the desk because that's what he's doing and it doesn't matter. On average, I mean, that was a research study. 4 or 5 brand new people who are new to each other. They don't know the expectations, etc. So that's that group condition is set to have those types of fast reactions to that type of behavior when it comes to impacting the culture. Usually, if you're in a business, there are firm rules. There are checks and balances. The expectations explained to everyone right when they start, so it doesn't happen that quickly, but it can actually happen as quickly as 7 days. 1 week of having a bad apple in your group can start to have significant impact on your group's performance and their understanding of the norms, which I always thought was really, really interesting, which is why it's so important that you're constantly checking in on your group's culture to make sure that there's no bad apple influences like that. So, as I was saying, yesterday I had a coworker reach out to me because she was having some issues with a couple of the members of the team that she oversees. And the issues were these 2 members of her team worked overnight shifts on the house that she oversees. This is working with people in group homes. And these staff who work the overnights weren't completing their cleaning list. Cleaning list is basically, hey, everyone's in bed, so people who are doing the, 10-hour overnight shifts with nothing to do, just clean up the house to make sure it looks good and is ready to go for the next day. This involves, sweeping and mopping the floors, cleaning the bathroom, dishes, etc. And these people were just not doing it. She said that she had the talk with them before, hey, I will help you, I'll do whatever I need to do, but you have to do this during your shift. These are your responsibilities. And she had that talk with them, they picked up on it for a little while, and then it just immediately dropped off and they stopped doing it again. So with that type of situation, where you have good staff members, they're qualified, they're smart, they have the potential to get the job done, but they're just not doing it, a lot of businesses and a lot of supervisors who are in that, Theory X mindset of employees are lazy, they don't want to do a good job, I have to be here to, force them to do a good job. What they'll do is they'll just immediately go to disciplinary actions. They'll say, yeah, I'm pulling you into a meeting with HR, we're going to do a performance improvement plan, we're going to do a write-up, might be a final written warning, might be a termination, but I need to have some type of negative punishment to punish you for doing stuff that I don't like, and that will scare you into doing the behaviors that I want to see. And scaring and intimidating a team is, there's no coming out ahead on that. Either they'll leave and you're down a team member, or they'll stay and they'll do the bare minimum to not get fired, and they'll hate your guts and they'll kind of make it a toxic work environment behind your back. So punishment is really never the way to go. That's not saying to never, use disciplinary actions, because sometimes you get people on their team, you think they're going to be great, and they're just not working out, and so you have to get rid of them. But I'll talk on that in a second. But basically, you should never have to intimidate or threaten your team members, because if you do that, one, you're not going to get anywhere near the response that you're hoping to get. And two, I personally always view disciplinary actions as a failure on the leader. So if I have to discipline one of my team members, that is just as much on me as it is on them. I completely view it as, I have failed you as a leader. I haven't held you accountable. I haven't provided you the support. I haven't checked in with you as frequently as I needed to. I have not done my job, which has allowed you to think that you can perform this way. And so it is just as much on me, and I take full responsibility for that. So I really, really think that that is how people should view disciplinary actions, is basically admitting that it's my fault because I screwed up in your supervision. I screwed up in your leadership. So if you're going to be writing people up or something like that, to me, you need to be willing to take the full responsibility for that and say, I have to do this write up with you because I fucked up and I have not been doing a good enough job. In which case, if you are of that mindset, you'll probably just avoid the write up entirely and just have a meeting and say, hey, I've been messing up. I've not been doing my job, but today's the day we're going to fix that. So anyways, I was talking with her and I let her know that, you could go the disciplinary route, which she didn't want to do. She was trying to avoid. That's why she was kind of seeking out some advice. And I was like, yeah, you could do that, but let's try not to. And again, she was completely on board with that. And I told her that, if this were my team members, I would catch them one day. I'd have one-on-one meetings with each of them and tell them, directly but supportively, hey, we have a problem because you're not doing this job responsibility to the quality that I expect it to be done. This is my fault, my responsibility, because I have let it slide for so long. I wasn't clear with you in the past when we met. I haven't been checking up as regularly as I should. I haven't been supporting you. Whatever the issue is, it's my responsibility. I'm not blaming you. This is all on me. But seeing as how you're a member of my team, you and I need to fix this issue right now. We're not leaving this meeting until we have a permanent solution, because this can't continue to happen after today. Once you establish that I'm not blaming you, I'm taking the fall for it, they'll feel a lot more comfortable because they know that you're not throwing them under the bus. But if you're firm and direct in saying that this cannot happen anymore after today, we need to find a solution together, you're throwing out belonging cues, which show that, hey, we're a team and then we're gonna, have a future as a team together, which again makes them feel more safe. But you're also setting the clear expectation of, after today, we are following my expectations. If we do not follow the plan, it is because you have chosen not to follow the plan, and that is something that you'll have to take responsibility for. And we'll get into that a little later as well. But anyways, again, don't sugarcoat things when you're having conversations like this with your employees. If you sugarcoat them, there's a very, very strong chance that your employees aren't going to get the accurate or full impression of whatever it is you're trying to say. So for example, if I were having that issue with someone and I were like, hey Bill, I'm just having an issue with the cleaning list because it doesn't look like it's getting done. Do you know what's going on with that? Yeah, if you could, do your best to make sure it gets done in the future. That way we can avoid these conversations. That would be great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. No actual expectations were set during that conversation. There was no directness letting them know that, hey, this needs to change now. There was no support exchange. It was just skirting around the issue, so nothing was actually accomplished, and it was a waste of time and energy both on my part and the employee's part. So I know that having direct conversations can be very, very difficult and uncomfortable for people if you're not used to it. Practice it. Have it with yourself in the mirror. Say what you need to say, critique yourself super harshly, do it again. Rinse and repeat until you feel like you have it down, and then you go have the conversation. Next time you need to have the conversation, do that exact same thing. Get into the habit of rehearsing it before you actually say it, and it'll kind of become like second nature to you. It'll get you to the point to where you don't need to rehearse it out loud. You can just rehearse it in your head. Again, continue practicing, and you'll get to the point to where you don't need to rehearse it in your head. That'll just be your speaking style, and you can do it naturally. Again, it is a hard skill to develop, but it is so crucially important to making sure that you have open and clear communication with your team. You don't benefit and they don't benefit if you sugarcoat things and you don't give direct information. Anyways, I was telling her that, tell them that you take responsibility, tell them that we need to find a solution during this meeting, and we're not going to leave until we have a solution. And then as well, once we leave this office, we are both on track to follow this plan because that's what we established that we do together. As well, if you have any issues following that plan, let me know ASAP. Don't not follow it for 3 weeks and then tell me, oh, hey, I haven't been following it for 3 weeks. The minute you know that something is wrong, or the minute you know that you can't meet that expectation, you need to let me know. That way we can work on it together, because you're a member of my team and we need to be able to do that. And I told her that when she had that conversation, that really should have been the last conversation needed on that, because you definitely should support your team, but you need to support your team within reason. If your team members are full-grown adults, they are competent, they are professional, they are educated, they are smart, they know their job, they've been trained, and they can't do something, or not can't, they won't do something like, a cleaning list, or submitting paperwork on time, or, making meetings in a punctual fashion, or something like that. At some point, you can't baby them to success. You should be providing them the tools, but they need to actually pick up the tools and use them. If your team members are just unwilling to do that, now there's a very clear distinction between unwilling and unable, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you can honestly say to yourself, as well as say to the rest of your team, hey, I provided these 18 different tools on these 4 different specific times, and this person just chose not to use any of them, they chose not to communicate with me, they chose not to do any of this stuff, that person just doesn't fit on your team. You can't let that person sit on your team and, continue to not pull their weight. Like I said, it takes 7 days, potentially, for that one person to sort of spoil your entire team and taint the workplace that you've been working to cultivate. So you need to be direct and supportive with your employees, but you can't let them drag those issues on for, weeks or months at a time. So again, having that clear conversation, letting them know the expectation, and this is an issue that needs to be fixed as of now. If you need me to sit in this office with you for the next 6 hours and go over, how to clean a bathroom or how to do dishes, I will do that for you. If you need me to check in with you every single shift for the next month and send you a text and say, hey, did you do A, B, and C? I will do that for you. I will provide you whatever support you need, but this is your responsibility and you need to be the one doing it. That is also a concept that's very, very important. You should not be doing the responsibilities for your employees. There are extreme situations where, if I have an employee who's going into labor and she needs to go to the hospital, then yes, I will absolutely cover for her and I will do whatever it is I need to do so that she can go into the hospital. I have no issue with that. That's an extreme example. If it's, oh, hey, I'm sick, so I'm not going to do my paperwork for, the next 2 or 3 days, even though I'm showing up to work, that's not. Like, I'll provide you whatever support I can, but if you're going to be working, you need to be following your responsibilities to the quality that has been set, the quality standard that's been set. So we had that conversation. She said that, she had had a similar conversation to them before. And again, I said, have that conversation, but after you're done having it, take a step back and look at it. Do you really want someone on your team who either can't or won't do something as simple as a cleaning checklist, even though it's 40% of their job? And that kind of fits into the role that I was talking about earlier with the termination of certain team members or disciplinary actions. I think one thing that's important for everyone to know is that everyone fits in somewhere, but not everyone's going to fit in with you. Just because you have someone hired for your team or you have someone join your team does not mean that they're going to fit in with the culture of your team. Sometimes you have people who you can offer them all the support and training and your time and effort in the world, but if they're just not interested in doing the type of work that you're doing, they're not a good fit for your team. If I have someone who's a graphic artist and I'm saying, hey, we need to go do interviews to collect data, and they just could not care less about that, and that's just not something they're interested in doing, and if their workload does not involve graphic art, they're going to half-ass it all the way, no matter what training I give them, no matter what motivation I give them, no matter what autonomy, development, or, connection to purpose their work tasks have to our overall goals I'll give them. If they just don't want to do the work, they can't be a part of your team. You can't let one person with a bad attitude drag down the entirety of your team, and because that affects not only the quality of work that your team puts out, but it also affects their views on the team as a whole. Like, I'm not going to feel as safe with my team if I have someone who doesn't give a shit about me or the work that we do. I'm not going to feel as confident with my growth and development with this team if I have someone who's constantly telling me how little our work matters and how they don't care about it at all. Again, that type of behavior is super toxic, and you really need to be on the watch out for it so it doesn't affect your team in the long run. So honestly, when it comes to disciplinary actions, my rule of thumb is there needs to be a 7-day change because of that data that's been collected. If I see an issue, I'm going to address it with you, and I don't care how big or small it is, it needs to be fixed within 7 days. So if it's an issue of you showing up late to meetings and appointments, that needs to be fixed within 7 days. If it's not being fixed within 7 days, then you're not going to be able to be a part of this team. I'm not going to write you up and punish you multiple times. I'm just going to say, hey, this is the expectation. I will give you every single bit of support I humanly can. You just need to let me know what you need from me. And if you don't know, I will work with you and we can sit down and figure that out right now. But after today, that is the expectation. Again, I don't care if it's someone showing up 2 minutes late to a meeting that's supposed to start at 1 o'clock, but they show up at 1:02. I would pull them inside and say, hey, this is an issue, needs to be fixed as of now. Or if it's something major where they're coming to work unprepared, I was gonna say intoxicated, but that shouldn't be a 7-day thing. If they come into work and they're verbally aggressive towards their coworkers, or they've got an attitude, or they refuse to work with anyone, that's something that might take a little longer to fix, but I would still give that 7-day. Hey, I'm willing to do whatever you need in order for you to be successful, but this needs to change before this time next week, because it's going to taint the group if you continue to act like that. That's something that's also a really, really important aspect of changing behavior when it comes to your group members, is that you need to explain why. You can't just say, do this because I said so, stop doing this because I don't like it, etc. Say what the behavior is, what they need to change about it, say the word because, and then give them an explanation as to why. If you're not able to do that, you need to think to yourself, have a solid reason as to why this behavior needs to change. A lot of people identify behavior that they don't like, and they'll just impulsively say, hey, stop doing that. Or, hey, don't do this because, it's against the rules, even though it's actually not. If you don't like a behavior, sit down and think to yourself, why don't I like this? Once you understand why, then you can have that conversation with them. It's as simple as, hey, when you've been coming in the last couple of days, you might not agree with this, but myself as well as multiple others have noticed that you've had an attitude, and that attitude has affected your behavior and your relationship with other people, and it's disrupting our ability to do work as a team. Now, as your leader and your supervisor, it is my job to support you, so I will work with you through whatever the issue might be. And if you don't know what the issue is, I'll sit here and we'll figure it out together. But the attitude has to stop, because it's damaging the ability of the team to work together. And it needs to stop by this time on this date, or else you're not going to be able to be a part of this team. Now, I don't want that. I want you to stay here as a part of the team because I care about you and I value you. But no one person is more important to the team, myself included. If I came in here with an attitude and I treated everybody like shit and I affected their work performance, I would fully expect that someone were to kick me out of the team, because that can't be happening in the team. I'm not going to damage it that way. Same thing with all of you. So I'm here to work with you. Let's figure out what's wrong. Let's identify, what the core issue is, and let's come up with solutions. But this attitude has to stop now. And some people will be receptive to that, and some people won't. And if they're not, then they're just not a good fit for your team. Again, just because you have someone on your team does not mean that they have to be there. You shouldn't be trying to force puzzle pieces into a certain place when they clearly don't fit in there, because again, it damages the rest of the puzzle. So yeah, when you're having that issue with someone, if they're just not willing to do the work that's required of them, then they're not a good fit for your team, and you have to let them go. You can say, hey, I'm really sorry about this, but the way that you're engaging with your coworkers, the way that you're behaving, is causing a lot of disruptions. I talked with you about it 5 days ago. We tried to work on it, and the change just isn't happening, so you can't be a part of this team anymore. I'm sorry, I can't keep you on. And that's not a fun conversation to have, but if you're a leader, that's a conversation you need to have in order to keep your group safe and protected. So again, there's two different options of firing people. One is deselection, which is basically you identify, hey, you're not a good fit here, you can't be here anymore. The other is self-selection, which is you hold someone to an incredibly high standard constantly. Not incredibly high, like, they can't do it, but you hold them to the high standard that you set your group up for constantly, and you don't let them slip, you don't let them be late. You call them out every single time that they're making a mistake or they're not performing to the level that they need to, and they'll be able to self-identify, like, hey, I'm not able to do this work. Hey, I'm not able to meet these standards. I'm not able to come in on time. I'm not able to, do these reports in the time that I need to. I'm not able to, have these good interactions with my teammates, and they'll be able to say, this group doesn't fit for me, so I have to go. Whatever route you choose is completely up to you, whatever fits your, style and your comfort level the most. But bottom line is that you need to make sure that you're not allowing toxic people to stay on your team just because it's uncomfortable to address those issues with them. Again, it takes practice. First couple of times you might do it, it might be terrible. It might be really uncomfortable. You might say the wrong thing. There might be, long dramatic pauses that make everyone uncomfortable. That's fine. That's part of the process of developing this skill. You should look forward to it because it's like, oh, hey, I know how I react when someone yells at me. I know it makes me panicked. I know it makes me shut down. I know these are things I need to work on. These are things I need to get comfortable with so that I can better do this in the future. Use those learning opportunities for what they are, which are learning opportunities. You're not going to do good the first time you try to fire someone. You're not going to do good the first time you try to tell someone to step up their game to fit in with the culture. You're going to have bad conversations to start. Accept it and learn as much as you can from those, and so you can develop yourself. But yeah, bottom line is you need to keep a lookout for your group, and you can't let those bad apples in because they will ruin the bunch. Yeah. Good luck.